Okay, so here are some lending hacks or borrowing hacks that I bet you didn't know about. But after today, hopefully you do. So for business owners, in the past, you usually needed 2 years of financial dates of you looking profitable on paper for a business owner. Now, 90% of banks will now accept 1 year's financials, which is awesome. That's always been a big struggle for business owners. So business owners, get your tax returns done, make sure you look profitable on paper, and let's start leveraging. Now, for those who get bonuses, so bonus checks from your employer, similar to the business owners, usually a bank would want to see 2 years of you getting that said bonus. Now they'll accept just 1 year of getting a big bonus. So there's a lot of people out there who get quarterly bonuses. You now only essentially need it for 1 year. There is also another one for business owners, some specialized lending for just using your BAS and your profit and loss statements. So as a business owner, if you haven't yet done your full tax return, but you just have your quarterly BAS and your up-to-date profit and loss statements from an accountant, there are some lenders out there who will lend to you with just those documents. In saying that though, those typically mean high interest rates, but guess what? You could just also refinance 6 or 12 months later anyway. Sometimes it's worth doing that, copying the high interest rate in the short term to lock in a property that's going to skyrocket, and then you just refinance and go to another lender later on. Another one is consolidating loans. I thought this was actually quite common, but turns out a lot of people don't know about this. So a lot of people have equity within their home, right? Let's just say you have, $300,000 of equity within a home, and you only say need $150,000 of that to actually buy another investment property. And then you potentially have another 150 grand that you could utilize that to consolidate other personal bad consumer debt loans, for example, car loans, credit cards, that sort of stuff. By simply doing that, the consolidation of that, putting them on lowest interest rates and pushing debt out, so like your repayments over 30 years, can really make a massive difference on improving your borrowing capacity. And when it comes to consolidating loans, HECS debts is one of the biggest ones that really reduces your borrowing capacity a lot. A HECS debt can burden people's borrowing capacity nearly as great as a massive credit card. The reason being is because HECS's base is income tested. So regardless with a HECS debt is if you own 1 grand versus $100,000 in HECS, then to the bank, the liability is the same. So get your HECS paid off is the short answer. Now, commission-based income earners. So yes, the banks prefer people on paper to be full-time and part-time. However, with commission-based employees, we can actually start to use that income after 3 months of you being formally inside that role. So a lot of people think you have to be 12 months consistent of that income or 6 months. There are a few lenders which can accept it after 3 months. And to that point, when it comes to full-time and part-time income, is there are a lot of lenders out there these days who will accept your job day one. In fact, there are a lot of lenders who will accept your income just with a letter or a contract of offer for your job. So you don't even have to have started your new part-time or full-time job yet, and we can already use that. Then we've got PAYG, so employed people who then move on to becoming a contractor. So this is traditionally known as self-employed because you're then getting paid to your ABN, right? However, nowadays there are some major banks who will actually accept that income as a contractor from day one, just like as if you were a full-time employee. Then for anyone who is in a specialized occupation, like for example, doctors, nurses, police officers, ambulance, accountants, physios, that's just to name a few. Those people are lucky because then we can typically have your LMI, which is lender's mortgage insurance, waived up to 90% LVR, which is kind of 2 birds with 1 stone. It means it increases your borrowing capacity because you don't have to pay it. And it also means it's a physical bill that you don't have to pay later on as well. So having free LMI is pretty awesome. Then this is the one that I love the most. So the servicing buffer. In Australia, most people think that you have to have, that the bank adds on 3% extra on top of what they're actually going to charge you. So for example, say a lender is going to give you an interest rate of 6%. When they're assessing you, most banks will assess you 3% on top of that. So if they're going to give you 6, they're actually assessing your repayments as if they're going to make it 9%. But guess what? In Australia, there are actually lenders now who will just assess you based on 2 or 2.5%. There are a very small amount of lenders, I think maybe 1 or 2 lenders out there who will actually only assess you, add on a buffer of 1% on top of what they're going to offer you. This servicing buffer is critical to obviously protect you and your repayments, plus the bank as well. This is why I say you need an investment-focused broker on your team. Is critical to get this broker right. Because you don't want a broker who's looking at all of these different loans that are tailored towards owner-occupiers if you're trying to get loans specifically for an investor, which is a great segue. So there are lenders out there who will allow you, which we call them like investment-friendly lenders, right? Who will actually assess your borrowing based on your actual physical repayments as opposed to the overall future repayments that you're going to pay. I'll give you an example. So this is where changing your loans for investment loans from principal and interest to interest only. By you changing your loans from principal and interest to interest only, that can most of the time reduce your physical repayments that you actually need to pay back each month. Now, there are lenders out there who will utilize that amount rather than the total amount that you would have to pay them over the next 30-year period. And then this is even better if you were an existing investor with investment properties already, because then you can apply that same logic to multiple different mortgages. Oh, now this one is a massive one for those who are really good at reducing their expenses. There is one lender out there who has a no notional rent. So this is for those who might be living at home with their mum and dad, or maybe you're living in a caravan traveling Australia. Right. So let's just pretend you have no rent or no board to pay, or you're living for free in your caravan. So really you have no expense or no roof to pay, no rent to pay, right? Now, typically there are all the other lenders out there will say, well, no, just because you tell us that you don't have this bill, we're still going to apply a minimal amount of rent. And for most of those lenders, it's about $650,000. So you could be living for free with mum and dad, zero board, or living in a caravan with zero rent, but the banks will still apply this $650,000 rule, where they'll say, even though you can seriously prove to us that you're living for free, we are actually going to still, to be conservative, add on $650,000 at minimum per month. Because they see that as a liability, obviously, and they just want to be a lot more conservative, because they're like, well, just because you live in a home with mum and dad, you could change your mind 3 months from now and just go start renting. Fair point to a bank if I was giving out hundreds of thousands of dollars. Now, the cool thing is that there is one lender who will not add on that $650,000, which is fucking awesome. You've obviously got to have some documents to prove it. And one last one I forgot, for those who are in the defense or the RAF as well, there's some great policies out there, similar to the doctors and nurses one, like no LMI, lower interest rates, all that sort of stuff. So if you want an incredible team of brokers who are good at investment loans to scale large property portfolios, click the link in my bio, book in a free call with me, and I can hook you up with my team.